Hi guys, I'm back for another few chapters of Renee Watson, Some Places More Than Others. We are in chapter 16 today, and there are 20 chapters in the book, so we are nearing the end. Dad and I walked on Houston Street and turned left onto Avenue B. This is the East Village, Dad tells me. Alphabet City, to be exact. We turn right on 3rd Street, and then we walk to a building that has a mural painted on it. One half is of a man's face. His eyes look heavy, like they are holding worry and pain, but also passion. This is Reverend Pedro Petrie. He was a Puerto Rican civil rights activist and co-founder of the New Yorker. Dad stares at the mural for a moment, and I wonder if his mind has taken him someplace else. This place is legendary for welcoming playwrights, poets, and musicians of color whose work isn't always accepted by the mainstream industry, he tells me. That list you saw was something I wrote my senior year of high school. Back when I was a kid, my parents wouldn't let me come down here. Why? It just wasn't a place for a kid at all, Dad says. Plus, your grandpa was not a fan of me being a poet, remember? Dad touches the mural and begins to walk away. I haven't held his hand since I was a little girl, but right now, under the New York sky, I reach out and place my hand in his. We walk down the narrow blocks hand in hand. The sky is winter gray, and already it is getting dark, even though it's not evening. Did you ever get to read there, I ask? A bunch of times. When I went to NYU, I was there all the time for the open mic. Your mom and I used to walk this route from our dorm. You want me to show you where we went to college? Yes. We walk for about 20 minutes, and then we get to a park that has a square white arch at the entrance. This is Washington Square Park. Our dorm was just a few blocks away, Dad says, but this was one of our hangout spots. Your mom loved coming here. And Central Park. Any green space in the city reminded her of Portland. We sit down on a bench. There are couples holding hands walking through the maze of people. A dark-skinned woman is pushing a stroller and singing to a crying baby. Across from us, a photographer is taking pictures, pointing his camera down at the ground and up above his head and every other direction. So Grandpa Earl never heard one of your poems? Not for real. Never a formal reading at school, and not even if I tried to read him one at home, Dad says. My mom did, though. She loved poetry. She loved my poems. When Dad says this, he sounds like a little boy, like how I must sound when I brag to Titus whenever Mom or Dad tells me how proud they are of me, how smart I am. Writing poems wasn't what Baker boys did. My pops wanted me to play sports, to be like him. There were very clear expectations of what I was supposed to be, and had nothing to do with art, writing, cooking. Girl stuff? Right. So he was like, Mom? I say, what do you mean? Well, Mom, I stop talking. But Dad wants to know what I have to say. Talk to me, Amaro. What do you mean? Sometimes I think Mom wants me to be a baker girl. I think she wishes I was more like her and into girly things. Well, I don't know that there are girly things or boy things. You just be who you want to be. We love you for you. It's not based on if you love wearing dresses or not. I know Mom loves me, but she's always saying she doesn't know whose child I am. Like I don't even belong to this family. I didn't even know how upset I was until I said it out loud. Now I'm sitting there like a baby with tears falling down my cheeks. Amara, your mom and I love you. She doesn't mean anything by that. She knows whose child you are. You're our daughter, and you have so much of both of us in you. Like what? You're smart, like your mom. You have her discipline and courage to try new things. You're caring like her, too. Dad kisses me on my forehead. And for me, well, your mom probably hates to admit it, but you get your fashion sense from me. He smiles. And my tears dry up and I sit up straight. But you're creative like both of us, actually, and I hope you have my compassion and integrity. At least, that's what I try to be in the world, Dad says. No matter what. You are our everything, and whether you prefer heels or sneakers has nothing to do with our love for you. We sit for a while, and then Dad says, you know who else you are like? Who? I ask. Your Grandma Grace. Sometimes I look at you, and it's like she is standing in front of me. You have her smile, and you're so thoughtful and kind, just like she was. Dad shifts and leans farther back on the bench. You have all of us in you, Amara. You are all of us. Then Dad says, you know, you should talk to your mom. Tell her how you feel. I promise you, she has no idea your feelings are hurt. I think she just wants to bond with you, and making clothes for you is her way of showing you how much she loves you. She isn't trying to make you become someone you're not. He tells me, you two just need to talk. Something your Grandpa Earl and I never did. Well, you can talk with him now, I say. It's not that simple, Amara. You should read something to him. Just pick a poem from your notebook and start reading. Don't you think things are different now? Don't you think he's changed? Dad doesn't answer. I don't say more. I'm not sure it's my place to tell Dad what Grandpa Earl told me, so I just keep quiet and sit with Dad and watch people come and go until he says, okay, let's walk by my old dorm and then we'll head back uptown. We leave the park and walk to the building where Mom and Dad met. Dad's face lights up with a smile as he tells me stories of when they dated. We take the subway back to Harlem, and by the time we come up from underground, the evening sky is creeping in. We walk home, and when we get to Grandpa Earl's block, I say, do you still write poetry? The last poem I wrote was, well, it was for your Grandma Grace. I wrote it for her funeral 12 years ago. Did you read it at the funeral? No, your Grandpa Earl wouldn't let me. He refused to put that nonsense, as he called it, on the program, so I didn't go. You didn't go to Grandma Grace's funeral? Dad shakes his head. Haven't talked to my dad since, really. Just before we walk up the steps to the stoop, I ask Dad, what did you do with the poem for Grandma Grace? It's in my wallet, always with me. Dad opens the front door and we go inside, take off all our layers. Before I go upstairs, Dad says, tomorrow the family is going to go to one of my favorite Harlem restaurants, Amy Ruth's. Anything else you want for your birthday? This trip to New York has been the best birthday gift ever. Can I really ask for something else? I take a chance and I say, for my birthday, I want to hear you read one of your poems. Mom and I FaceTime like we do every night. When the phone rings, Dad says she doesn't know about your solo excursion and walks out of the room. And I think Dad not telling Mom about me wandering around New York by himself might be the best birthday gift ever. I fill my mom in on my time with Dad and tell her about going to Amy Ruth's tomorrow. She talks to Dad for a while, and when he brings me my phone back, he says, Titus called while I was talking to your mom. I call Titus back. When Titus answers the phone, he jumps right into the conversation. Are you ever coming back to Beaverton, he asks. I haven't been gone that long, I say. And the way things were going this morning with my cousins, I kind of wish I was already back home. I tell Titus about my argument with Ava. I came here to get closer to my family, not argue with them. Titus laughs. Every family argues. I fight with my cousins all the time, he says. Doesn't mean I don't love them. Nobody's family's perfect. He is so much like his dad. So matter-of-fact and to the point. Titus starts filling me in in on everything I am missing. Most of it's pretty boring, predictable stuff, except the part about Miss Sutton being absent for the past 2 days. She's never absent. Titus is telling me a very detailed animated version of how the sub talked and acted and how he doesn't think the sub even knew anything about math. The whole time Titus is talking, I am thinking about what he said about loving family. I'm thinking about how love looks so many ways and it isn't easily broken. I'm thinking about how even though my grandpa and my dad aren't really talking, they still love each other. I know they do. I just know it. I can tell by the way Grandpa Earl says Dad's name, how he stares at him sometimes when he thinks no one's looking, how Dad's eyes change, become warmer whenever Grandpa Earl says son. I'm thinking about how Mom shows me her love by making me clothes and massaging coconut oil into my hair, how the bundles of lavender in my closet are a symbol of her care. I think about Ava and Nina and how even though we are just getting to know each other, there's love there. How Ava looked more scared than she'd admit when they thought I was missing. How Nina just bundled me in like another little sister. All the cards and phone calls from Grandpa Earl and Aunt Tracy. And then there's Big T and Titus buying me shoes. And Aunt Sophie not caring that she is not real family, but family just the same. I have people who love me. I have people to love. Chapter 17. Today is Friday, my birthday. When I wake up, I think maybe I am not awake. Maybe I am still dreaming. There are metallic silver and gold balloons all over the bedroom. The floor is covered. But then Dad opens the door and says, "Happy birthday, Amara," and turns the phone around the room, showing Mom how he decorated the room. I hear her voice saying, "Happy birthday" to me, and then Dad turns the phone to face me, so I see her face. It's good to see her brown eyes, her smile. Dad says, "Okay, babe, 1, 2, 3. And they both serenade me with the happy birthday song. After they sing, Dad hands me the phone. "I miss you," Mom says. "I miss you too. How are you feeling? Is the baby okay?" "I'm on bed rest, and Sophie is taking good care of me. So tell me, how's your dad? How's Grandpa Earl?" And I know what Mom is really talking about. I tell her I'm working on it. "Well, today's going to be a tough day for them, I'm sure." Grandma Grace. It's tradition for Grandpa Earl and Aunt Tracy to visit the gravesite every year. "I know your Grandma Grace would want your dad there. Make sure he goes, no matter what," Mom says. "I will, I promise. Even though I don't think I can make Dad do anything he doesn't want to do." After we eat breakfast, Grandpa gets up from the table and says, "Well, I guess I better get dressed. Going to visit my Grace today. Tracy will be here in an hour. You two are coming, right?" "Yes," I say before Dad can say no. "Dad and I will be ready on time." When Grandpa Earl goes into his bedroom, Dad says to me, "So you speak for me now?" "It's my birthday. We're spending it together, doing whatever I want to do. You promised." Dad gets up from the table, rinses his bowl, and puts it in the dishwasher. 30 minutes later, he is back downstairs, dressed and ready to go. Nina rings the doorbell, and when I open the door, she says, "My mom didn't want to look for parking, so she had me come get you. She's circling the block." Grandpa Earl walks behind me, Nina, and Dad. Aunt Tracy's car has 2 back rows, so there are enough seats for all of us. We get into the car, me and Nina all the way in the back, Dad and Ava in front of us, and Grandpa Earl in the front passenger seat next to Aunt Tracy. I say hello to Ava, and she says hello back, but we both know we need to say more than that. We drive a while, the whole way singing along to the radio, but then once we exit from the freeway, the car gets quiet. I look out the window. I see tombstones rising. out of the ground like flowers. Except these stone flowers don't sway in the wind, don't give off a sweet fragrance. Aunt Tracy parks and everyone gets out of the car except Dad, so I stay too. I'm standing on the sidewalk next to the car. His door is halfway open. Amara, go ahead, Dad says. I'll wait for you. It's okay. I'm going to stay in the car. I can't even imagine what I would do if I ever had to say goodbye to Mom or Dad. Just thinking about it makes me dizzy and nauseated and every bad feeling I've ever felt. I stand closer to Dad, as close as I can get, and I take his hand. I don't know what to say, so I just don't say anything, and I think maybe the words will come, or maybe it's okay to not always have the words. We stay like this for a while, and I think about how I've never been to a funeral. But in just 1 week, I have stood on top of someone's ashes, and now I am at a graveyard. Think about how peaceful it felt, how powerful it felt, standing on top of the cosmogram at the Schomburg Center. How powerful it felt to take in the spirit of Langston Hughes, honor him. And I think maybe these memories have nothing to do with the person who left us, but instead are all about the people who stayed. Maybe Mom has it all wrong. Dad shouldn't be here because Grandma Grace would want him to, but because he needs to. The wind is whispering, chilling the sky with its breath. I try one more time to convince Dad to join everyone else. Dad, don't do it for anyone else. Do it for you. Dad gets out of the car, closes the door, and we walk along the path, joining Grandpa Earl, Aunt Tracy, Nina, and Ava. They are all standing there, looking at the headstone, not saying a word. After a long silence, Aunt Tracy says, I love you, Mom. Miss you every day. Nina and Ava say their I love yous too. Then Grandpa says a prayer. They all start to walk away except Dad. I stay with him holding his hand, and then Dad takes his hand away from mine, goes into his pocket, and pulls out his wallet. He takes out a folded piece of paper that has a thick crease down the middle, unfolds it, and begins to read. Grandpa Earl, Aunt Tracy, Nina, and Ava stop walking, turn, and listen. Son to Mother, after Mother to Son, by Langston Hughes. So he wrote a poem of his own that was inspired by a poem that Langston Hughes wrote. Instead of being called Mother to Son, it's called Son to Mother. Mama, you climbed those splintered stairs. Even when there was blood, bruises from the boards torn up, you kept climbing. You were light always. Sometimes dim, but always you shined. Mama, you climbed. I saw you out of breath, saw you striving, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but all the time you kept climbing. Me, right behind you, exacting your footsteps, stumbling but never falling, held up by your faith. Life for me ain't gonna be the same without you, but I'll keep on, and I'll pass you down to my children, and they will climb too. They will keep on and on because of you. Chapter 18. Dad wants to make sure we get some daddy-daughter time before dinner tonight. So once we get back to Grandpa Earl's, we leave to explore more of New York. We ride the 4 train into the Bronx. At first, we are underground, and then all of a sudden there is daylight, and I see buildings flashing by fast, like someone is shuffling a deck of cards. Whoa! Dad smiles. Pretty cool, huh? Really cool. I stare out the window, Look at the graffiti on the sides of buildings up so high it makes me wonder who could have the nerve to get up there and not get caught. So, about yesterday, Dad says, here's the punishment. I knew it was coming. You need to make things right with Ava, Dad tells me. I didn't mean to hurt her feelings. She was being so rude and mean, and I'm tired of her treating me like I'm a baby. The train stops at Yankee Stadium, but this looks so different from yesterday. I see signs for the D train and realize there are many ways to get to and from a place in New York. It's all so confusing. We walk down the stairs, and once we're outside, I can tell we're not in Harlem anymore. The streets feel more crowded, and instead of brownstones, there are majestic buildings that look like old castles taking up half a block. We walk over to Concourse Jamaican Bakery, and on the way, Dad says, the sign of true maturity is when you're able to end the argument first, to forgive a person even if they haven't asked for it. You know, Amara, you keep saying you don't want to be treated like a baby, so you have to stop acting like one. I know Dad is talking about me and Ava, and I know he's right. I'll talk to Ava, I tell Dad. But does this mean you'll talk to Grandpa Earl? Dad doesn't say anything. Dad, you said forgiving is... I know what I said, Amara. So are you going to talk to him? Amara, it's not that simple. But it could be. It could be as simple as you telling Grandpa Earl that you love him, that you forgive him, and then, I don't know, just see what happens. Like I've said before, you definitely have my persistence. We get to Morris and 167th, and in the middle of the block next to a grocery store, Dad opens the door that I barely realized was there. This is it? I ask. Sometimes less is more, Dad says. We enter the tiny restaurant that doesn't even have tables for you to stay at and eat. It's hard to see who's ordered already and who hasn't, but Dad seems to know. He goes up to the counter and orders 2 beef patties and 2 ginger beers. He sees the expression on my face and says, it's soda, like a really strong ginger ale. Oh, I smile, and Dad laughs. Dad didn't describe what a beef patty was, so when I see the golden brown pastry, I'm surprised. It's stuffed with meat and spices and is officially the best thing I've ever eaten since being in New York. We walk around the Bronx, eating our patties and drinking our ginger beers. My soda is too strong, it burns my throat, so I give it to Dad, who gulps it down in a few swallows. On the way back to the train, Dad says, okay, now what's on your list? I'm yours all day. All day? Dad smiles. Go easy on me, though. I take up my phone and I show him my list in notes. I know we can't do everything, so I narrow it down. Top of the Rock, Canal Street, Strand, bookstore. All right, Dad says, let's get to it. Dad and I head back to Harlem for dinner. Sorry we didn't make it to all the places you wanted to see. It's okay, I saw a lot of places that weren't on the list. Places I didn't even know about. We'll have to come back one day. I definitely want to take you to see a Broadway play. Promise? Promise. I really don't know how the day has gone by so fast. I have never walked this much in my entire life. My feet are aching from all the walking Dad and I did. It's already time to meet Grandpa Earl and the rest of the family at Grandma Ruth's. We don't even have time to drop our shopping bags off at Grandpa Earl's. When we get to the restaurant, everyone is already seated and waiting for us. Aunt Tracy looks at the bags in her hands and says, you two are going to need to buy more suitcases to fit all this stuff. Dad laughs. She got that shopping gene like Mama. Nina asks, what did you get? I bought a few souvenirs, but mostly things for my suitcase project. I show them the map I got at the Strand, a used picture book that Dad said was his favorite as a kid, and some of the t-shirts I bargained for on Canal Street. But only this one is for the suitcase, I say, and I hold up the I Love New York shirt. I want you all to sign the heart. Oh, I think that's a wonderful idea, Grandpa Earl says. We open our menus and start figuring out what we want. Every item on the menu is named after a Black legend. Dad and I order the Reverend Al Sharpton, which is chicken and waffles. Grandpa Earl gets the Ruby D, fried catfish with yams and greens for his sides. Aunt Tracy asks the server for the Gabriel Union, smothered pork chops. Nina and Ava take forever to decide, and finally Nina gets the Michelle Obama, fried whiting, and Ava asks for the jumbo chicken wings, which is called the Ludicrous. When the food comes, we all swap pieces and share spoonfuls and split the cornbread, and there isn't much conversation. Grandpa Earl says, well, this must mean the food is good, since no one is talking. I take this as my cue to say what I need to say to Ava. I'd like to say something. I take a deep breath and look at Ava. I want to apologize to you, Ava. And the reason I am doing it in front of everyone is because everyone knows what happened, what I said. So I think they should all hear that I'm sorry. And to you too, Nina, I'm really, really sorry for what I did. No one is eating now. We're all just sitting at the table with a Whitney Houston song blasting from the speakers. At first, I think maybe Ava isn't going to say anything. Maybe she isn't ready to forgive me or to talk to me. But after a while, she says, I'm sorry too. And then she says, for everything. And I accept your apology, Nina says. We all start eating again, and we get to talking as if there was never anything that silenced us. Nina says, Mom, can we visit Uncle Charles and Amara in Oregon one day? And with that question, I start telling them all about the things there are to do, all the places we could go. Multnomah Falls, OMSI, Oaks Amusement Park, and that's just a few. We could do a day at Seaside Beach. There's all kinds of things to do there, like bumper car rides, feed the seals. Oh, and there's a candy store that has the best saltwater taffy. Okay, slow down, Dad says. Clearly, Amara will be the tour guide. I hear him whisper to Aunt Tracy. Leslie and I can cover airfare for the girls. Grandpa Earl says, a Baker family gathering next summer. I like the sound of that. We order dessert, and soon the table is covered with bowls of peach cobbler and plates with slices of sweet potato pie. Aunt Tracy starts telling stories about Dad again. She tells us how in the summertime the fire hydrants would be turned on and they would play in the water, splashing each other and playing tag, and how Grandpa Earl and Grandma Grace took them to see the Christmas tree lighting every year at Rockefeller Center. Then she tells us stories of Dad breaking her dolls and all the shenanigans they'd get into. Listen, ladies, there are pros and cons to having a brother. Then she says, but I admit, we've had more good times than bad. The stories continue with Nina and Ava sharing their own tales of sibling shenanigans. We laugh the kind of laughs that make the strangers at other tables look at us, the kind of laugh that burns my eyes and makes my stomach ache. This is the kind of laughter I am having when, though my blurry eyes, I see Grandpa Earl touch Dad's shoulder. And Dad doesn't become a statue or pull away. Instead, they look at each other, keep laughing, keep smiling. We don't want the night to end, but there is a long line of customers waiting to be seated. Aunt Tracy says, after party at Dad's? And we head back to Grandpa Earl's. Once we're at the house, we sit in the living room listening to more stories about Dad and Aunt Tracy's childhood. Grandpa Earl is sitting next to Dad, and they are going back and forth, tag teaming on a story about the time Dad snuck out of the house and got caught. Both of them laughing so hard they can barely finish the story. I leave for a moment, go upstairs, and get the tape recorder. I don't want to ask formal questions. I just want to get this candid moment of everyone laughing and talking. I push the record and play buttons to capture all this joy. Chapter 19. The smell of sizzling bacon, eggs, and pancakes floats through the brownstone. Dad must be cooking a real breakfast. No oatmeal. I walk into the hallway, and just when I get to the edge of the stairs, I hear Grandpa Earl and Dad talking, and so I don't go down. I just sit at the top of the stairs listening to words like sorry, and I forgive you, and I've always loved you, and I want you in my life. And I think about how much I love words, how mighty powerful words are. I get ready for the day, putting on my Jordan Retros 1. Today is the slam dunk contest, and Dad is taking me, Nina, and Ava. Aunt Tracy comes too. When we get to Barclays Center, Nina and Ava are all big-eyed and shocked because they didn't know we'd be sitting in Nike's private suite. So wait, Ava says, we can just get as many snacks and drinks as we want? Aunt Tracy says, well, yes, but no, don't overdo it. We're guests here. Dad says, you're my guests. You can have as much as you want of whatever you want. We each get a wristband and go inside the room. Let's get you all your gift bags before we get our seats, Dad says. Nina opens her bag first. All of this is for us, she says. Thanks, Uncle Charles. She takes out a set of headphones and the newest iPad and holds up the All-Star t-shirt to her body, seeing if it fits. Thank you, she says again. Aunt Tracy looks through her bag. Charles, you are spoiling us. What am I going to do when you leave? We all keep digging in the never-ending gift bags. Ava and I go over to the food table and fix our plates. There's all kinds of food on the table. So much that I hope more people are coming because this looks like a lot of food for just the people in this room. Ava and I sit with the rest of the family who are still not eating. One of Dad's co-workers comes over and introduces himself, telling us how much Dad talks about us at work, how he's so honored to finally meet us in person. I know I am smiling so hard right now, but I can't hide feeling good, knowing that when Dad travels, I am never far from his mind. All right, so who you rooting for? The man asks. Nina and Ava answer, East Coast, at the same time. And you? He asks me. Same, I say. Really now? He shakes his head, pretending to be disappointed. I gotta go find me some West Coast people. He laughs and walks away, saying, enjoy the weekend, as he makes his way to mingle with another family. Just as the announcer's voice booms through the stadium, introducing the start of the game, my phone buzzes. I take it out and see that Hannah is calling. Hello? Amara, where's your dad? I've been calling him, but he won't pick up. Hannah is talking fast, and there's panic in her voice. We're at Barclays Center for the slam dunk contest. He's right here, I tell her. Hold on. I walk over to Dad, who is taking a picture with some of his co-workers. Dad, it's Hannah. As soon as I say that, Dad grabs the phone and walks into the hallway where it's quieter. I follow him, even though I know he wouldn't want me to. He's too distracted to even notice I am there. He walks halfway down the hall, finds a quiet spot, and leans against the wall. Is she okay? He asks. And then so much silence I can barely keep my heart inside my chest. He is nodding and saying, okay, and pacing back and forth. Then he says, we'll fly out as soon as we can. Dad hangs up the phone, looks at me, and says, we have to go. The baby is coming. Saying goodbye is rushed, and I feel like I am forgetting something because I've packed so fast and didn't double check the closet or do one last look through of the room like Mom always does whenever we travel with Dad and stay in hotels. Dad carries our suitcases downstairs and loads Aunt Tracy's car. He comes back to give hugs to Nina and Ava, and then he hugs Grandpa Earl, long and tight. When they let go of each other, Grandpa Earl looks at me and says, Sunshine, come here. And he opens his arms wide for me. I hug him, and he is holding me so tight that I think I will feel his hug long after I am out of his embrace. Bye, Amara. I'm glad we got to hang out, Nina says. We can't wait to visit Oregon. She hugs me. Ava and I say our last goodbyes next. After we hug each other, she says, I hope everything's okay with Aunt Leslie and the baby. Thank you, I say. Aunt Tracy says it will be fine. Leslie is at 36 weeks. It's not full term, but it's not dire. She'll be okay. She'll be okay. I'm not sure if Aunt Tracy believes herself. She repeats it again and again in the car on the way to the airport. Everything is going to be fine. The baby will be fine. 36 weeks isn't so bad. These are the only words spoken in the car. Dad is texting and listening to voicemails and texting some more with Hannah. I am sitting in the back seat saying goodbye to New York as it flashes past me. Already I miss this place, but I'm anxious to get home. The whole way to the airport, I whisper a prayer for Mom, for my baby sister, for all of us. Chapter 20. While Dad and I were suspended in the air, flying in the space above the clouds, so close to heaven that our prayers were sure to be heard, Mom gave birth to my baby sister. Tadala. Tadala means we have been blessed. She is 5 pounds of breath, a tiny girl who cries all night and sleeps all day, who made Dad weep when he first held her in his arms. She likes it when I hold her. I know this because she never fusses when she is in my arms. I'm already her favorite, and she's only known me for a few days. Already I love her more than a few days worth of love. Today is the first day she is home, and we get to see her without tubes and out of the incubator that looked like a bubble made out of glass with its small hole only big enough to slide your arm in and hold her too small hand. Now I can hold all of her. You can't hold her all day, Mom says. She's going to be spoiled rotten. Mom takes Tadala from me, but holds her for a little while before putting her in her bassinet. All day this is what we do. Hold her, feed her, change her. Hold her, feed her, change her. This time, when Mom puts Tadala in the bassinet for a nap, Mom goes to sleep too. Dad tiptoes in the kitchen, fixing a late lunch, which is actually just reheating the feast Titus's mom brought over. She's been bringing food over to the house every few days to help out, even though Mom and Dad insisted that she didn't have to do that. The gray sky has been pouring out rain all day. Dad and I eat lunch together in the kitchen, listening to the noisy raindrops splash and crash onto the windowsill, the pavement. When we are finished, he gets up from the table and says, "Come with me, I want to show you something." He walks upstairs. I follow him to the attic. It is a spacious room with a low ceiling, but big enough for me to stand without having to bend. Dad is hunching, lowering his head. He bends over and pulls the chest that Mom never lets me open into the center of the room. "Open it," Dad says. I think maybe this is a trick or something, but he just looks at me until I twist open the lock. Inside the chest, there's a quilt made with only black and white patterned fabrics. "Your Grandma Grace made that," Dad tells me. Under the quilt, there is a treasure of journals of different shapes and sizes, some thick like books, others thin with spiral wire tying the pages together. "These belonged to your grandma," Dad says. "Aunt Tracy sent them to me the year after she died." Dad picks up one of the journals, the one that is made of black leather with a small gold clasp on the side. My mom didn't write poetry, but she recorded everything. In the mornings before the sun was up, she would sit at the dining room table with her ginger tea, writing. He hands me the journal. I open it and read it out loud. Let Grandma Grace's words flow over me. Let her tell me in her own words our story. Chapter 21. Our suitcases are due next week. Mom cleared off the dining room table so I could use her workspace. The cherry wood suitcase sits in the middle of the table. I have the photocopied pictures from Grandpa Earl's album, and I've printed some of the photos from my trip to New York. I even have a few from a walk I took around my neighborhood here in Beaverton. All the images are glued down on the bottom of the suitcase, covering the lining. I've stuffed the side pockets with a few of Dad's old tapes, scraps of fabric, and bundles of lavender. I've put some of my poems inside, too. I've decided to make the bottom of the suitcase look like the cosmogram at the Schomburg Center. My artifact is Dad's tape recorder. I put it in the center, take a blank cassette, and pull all the tape out of it so it can pour out the open cassette door like a river with many streams. The rivers represented in my display are the Columbia River and the Harlem River. And just like Langston, I'm representing places that are important to me, where I have roots. My grandma's kitchen, my grandpa's sitting room, my school's library, the table in the kitchen where I eat with Mom and Dad, the Schomburg Center, 125th Street, Frederick Douglass Boulevard, Alabama, Louisiana, Oregon. Some of these places I'm still getting to know. Some of these places I have known all my life. All of these places made me and are making me. And we end with a poem called My Suitcase Carries, which I'm pretty sure is authored by Renee Watson, since there isn't an author listed. So this is her words. My suitcase carries. Actually, this is authored, obviously, by Renee Watson, but I think it's a poem that Amara, her voice, has written. Grandma's recipes. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Ginger for tea, brown sugar for oatmeal, a deep pot for stews and soups, an iron skillet for everything else. Instructions for stretching a little into a whole lot. Grandpa's southern drawl, his slow walk and brown fedora. A handful of caramel candies and always peppermint, coffee beans, and cocoa powder. Old records with jazz moans scratched in the vinyl. Mom's bundles of lavender for drawers and closets, coconut oil for hair, for skin, candles to chase away darkness. How she makes beauty out of everything she touches, her knowing even when no one has told her. Dad's verbs and nouns, his tapes and notebooks, a record of his soul. His voice always comforting me, telling me I am loved as is. Gray skies and Oregon rain, and beep, beep, beep of New York streets. Rivers and roots, protests and prayers. All these things I bring with me. That poem was titled My Suitcase Story. And that's where we will stop for today. At some point, I will read you the author's note, but not today. I hope you enjoyed Renee Watson's Some Places More Than Others, and I hope that you enjoy putting a mini suitcase project together.